Good morning, dear students. So in the last class we have discussed regarding the complex permanent tissue. So in the complex permanent tissue we have discussed with the xylem, which is called as wood. So today we will discuss with another complex permanent tissue, that is a phloem. So the xylem and phloem are the two important tissues which are involved in the conduction of water as well as food. So now the phloem it is commonly called as bast. It is a food conducting tissue. The common word for the phloem is bast. It is a food conducting tissue. So now this phloem, so in the entire plant, which is the main reason for the production of food, is leaves. So leaves are the main site where the production of food takes place. So the plants, they are called as autotrophic in nature. See, this word autotrophic is very important. So what is this autotrophic? The word auto, it refers to self. Autotrophic. What is the word auto refers to? It refers to self. So the word autotrophic here, it means the plants, they have an ability to synthesize their own food. The organisms which are involved in the synthesis of their own food, they are called as autotrophic. Whereas there is another one word. So this two words, it is not related with the phloem, but these are the basic concept. What? Autotrophic, and the another one is heterotrophic. So what is heterotrophic? The heterotrophic are the organisms which does not have an ability to synthesize their own food. So the organism, they won't synthesize their own food, but instead they depend on other organisms for their food. So now the plants, they are called as autotrophic because they have an ability to synthesize their own food. Now how or through which mechanism the plant, it synthesizes the food, means it is synthesized with the help of a mechanism or with the involvement of a mechanism called as photosynthesis. Through which mechanism it is synthesized? It is synthesized through a mechanism or through a phenomena called as photosynthesis. So now, which is the main region or where in the entire plant the photosynthesis mechanism takes place? That takes place mainly in the green part of a plant. Green part of a plant is mainly involved in the synthesis of food. So now this green part of a plant, mainly that is the leaves. So hence the leaves are the main site for the production of food. How the food is prepared? It is prepared by a mechanism of photosynthesis. So in your syllabus, first year syllabus, there is also a mechanism of photosynthesis in plants. So that we will discuss while discussing with that chapter. So what are the raw material involved and how, where, which is a particular site. So that everything we will discuss while discussing with photosynthesis in plants. So now, so by the mechanism of photosynthesis, the food, it will be prepared where? It is prepared in leaves. So whatever the food is prepared in the leaves, it has to be transported to the different regions of a plant. So plant, the leaf is the main region where the food is prepared. After preparation, the food, it has to be transported to the different regions of a plant. So how it is transported or through what it is transported means whatever the food which is synthesized in the leaf, it is transported to the different region of a plant through a tissue called as what? Phloem. Through a tissue called as what? Phloem. So phloem is a tissue which helps in translocation, or also you can say which helps in transport. See, in the textbook we have there is a use of word translocation. What is this translocation? Means transfer. That is the meaning. It gives translocation means transfer. Or another word related with this is conduction. The conduction, translocation and transportation, which are similar with one another. conduction, translocation and transportation. All the words, they give somewhat similar meaning with each other. So here the phloem is a tissue which helps in translocation or conduction of food to the different regions of a plant. To the different regions of plant, especially the roots. So whatever the food has to be synthesized in the upper part of a plant, that is in the leaf, that will be transported to each and every part of the plant, no doubt about that. Along with that, it has to be translocated mainly to which part? It has to be translocated to the roots. Why roots? Why the roots is very important here means, see the roots, they are completely submerged inside the soil, or they are completely hidden inside the soil. Hence, the roots, you may see the color of the root, it is somewhat whitish in its color, it is not green. The green part of a plant, it is mainly involved in the mechanism of preparation of food. So the roots, they does not have an ability to synthesize the food. Hence, whatever the food is synthesized in the leaf, it has to be moved to the roots, because the roots are the very important region of a plant which helps in absorption of soil as well as nutrient, micronutrient which is present in the soil. So that nutrient as well as the soil, water which is present in the soil, that is absorbed by which one? Roots. So root, it helps in mainly the absorption of water and nutrients from the soil. So the cells, they require the energy. Which cells? The cells which is present in the root. So now how the cells get nutrient? Andre, it gets its nutrient from the leaves through the phloem. So hence the phloem is a tissue which helps in translocation or conduction of food to the various part of a plant, especially the roots. Now as we are discussing in the complex permanent tissue, so the complex permanent tissue, it is made up of 4 elements as we have discussed in the xylem. Here also it is made up of 4 different elements. And what are the elements or components of the phloem is, the first one is sieve tubes, companion cells, third one is phloem parenchyma, and the last one is phloem fibers. So these are the 4 elements in the phloem tissue. So the phloem tissue, it consists of sieve tubes, companion cell, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. Whereas what are the 4 elements we have discussed in xylem means, the xylem also it is made up of 4 elements. One is trachea, tracheids, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. So here in the phloem it is sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. So we are going to discuss one by one. So now first we will take up with the sieve tubes. Now the sieve tubes are the elongated cells, the sieve tubes are the elongated cells which are overlapped on one another. So these are the sieve tubes. The sieve tubes are the elongated cells which are overlapped on one another, and the sieve tube here it is living. Living means it contains a cytoplasm. And in between the 2 sieve tubes there is a plate-like structure called as sieve plate. There is a plate-like structure. This plate-like structure is called as sieve plate. This is one sieve tube and this is another sieve tube. Both the sieve tubes are interconnected by a plate-like structure called as sieve plates. Now this sieve plate, it contains number of pores in it. It contains number of pores. They are called as sieve pores. These are sieve tube This one is sieve plate, and there is a pores. Pores means holes ಇದೆ ಆ ಪ್ಲೇಟಲ್ಲಿ. ಆ ಹೋಲ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಆ ಪೋರ್ಸಿಗೆ ಏನಂತೀವಿ? sieve pores. Now, the matured sieve tube, there is one word, the matured sieve tube lacks the nucleus. Very, very important. The matured sieve tube, it lacks the nucleus. But there is a protoplasm or the cytoplasm, it is towards the periphery. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಏನಿಗೆ ಬರ್ದಿದ್ದೀನಲ್ಲ, this is a protoplasm. As it is living, it has to contain the protoplasm. But the matured sieve tube, word matured is very important from the point of competitive. The matured sieve tube lacks nucleus. Hence, as it lacks the nucleus, it is called as enucleated. Why it is called as enucleated? E here refers to absent. Means earlier when the sieve tubes was young, when it was still, it has been formed, young sieve tubes. ಈಗ phloem tissue form ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂದಾಗ ಆ sieve tube ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. But once it has grown up, ಅಂದರೆ once the food translocation takes place, when it begins with its function, what is the function of the phloem ಅಂತಂದರೆ the function is to translocate the food. ಯಾವಾಗ ಅದು ಫುಡ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೊಕೇಶನ್ ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಸಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇರೋಂಥ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್ಸು ಡಿಸ್ಅಪಿಯರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅದು ಡಿಜನರೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಈ sieve ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ಸನ್ನ enucleated sieve tubes ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. Why it is called as enucleated means it lacks the nucleus. Which is lacking the nucleus andre, that is a matured sieve tube. It lacks the nucleus, hence it is called as enucleated. And the each sieve tubes, it is interconnected by a plate like structure called as sieve plate, and this sieve plate, it contains numerous tiny pores in it. That pores are called as sieve pores. And also we can see proteinaceous strands inside the sieve tube, which is made up of what type of protein strands are seen inside the sieve tube? It is called as P protein, small letter P. That is a proteinaceous strands. P protein strands are observed inside the sieve tube. And the very important, as I said, it is a enucleated. They will ask the question, in the entire plant, you take whatever the group of the plant it is, name the cell which lacks the nucleus in the plant antandre, that is mainly the matured sieve tube. In ella plant cell allu nucleus irutte. If I said the sieve tube, it is a living condition. Even if it is living but the nucleus is absent antandre yavdu antandre, that is a sieve tube. Very important. Now the sieve tube are the main site for the translocation of food. Means the food, whatever it is prepared from the leaf, it will be moved through the sieve tube. So sieve tube are very important. Now during the time of winter, what time? During the time of winter season, there is a deposition of a particular proteinaceous component inside the sieve pore. ಈ sieve pore ಒಳಗಡೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಪ್ರೋಟೀನೇಷಿಯಸ್ ಕಾಂಪೊನೆಂಟ್, ಯಾವುದು ಪ್ರೋಟೀನೇಷಿಯಸ್ ಕಾಂಪೊನೆಂಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆಪಾಸಿಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, that is the component here that is called as callus. What it is called? Callus. So during the time of winter, the callus, it starts depositing inside the sieve pore. ಆ ಪೋರ್ಸ್, ಈ ಪೋರ್ಸ್ ಇಂದನೇ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಫುಡ್ ಬಂದಿರೋದು ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಮೂವ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಥ್ರೂ ದಿಸ್ ಪೋರ್ಸ್. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಬಟ್ ಈಗೇನಾಗಿದೆ, ಈ ಪೋರ್ಸ್ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಯಾವುದರಿಂದ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಆಗಿದೆ? ಥ್ರೂ ದ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಆರ್ ಥ್ರೂ ದ ಡೆಪಾಸಿಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ಯಾಲಸ್. ಈ ಕ್ಯಾಲಸ್ ಬಂದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆಪಾಸಿಟ್ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಪೋರ್ಸ್ ಏನಾಯಿತು? ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. At which time? During the time of winter. Hence during the time of winter, the translocation is decreased due to the deposition of callus in the sieve pore. But when the summer season arises or when the spring arises, summer season ಅಥವಾ spring ಬಂದಾಗ automatically this callus again it will be dissolved. It is dissolved, hence again the pores are released. The callus is dissolved and hence the pores are released. So this is about the sieve tube. So sieve tubes are the elongated cells with a wide lumen. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇರೋದು lumen, and the protoplasm it is pushed towards the periphery, but the matured sieve tube it lacks the nucleus. The matured sieve tube it lacks the nucleus. That condition itself is called as enucleated. So hence the sieve tubes they are called as enucleated because it lacks the nucleus. Next also we can see a proteinaceous strand inside the sieve tube. The proteinaceous strand it is made up of a protein, particular protein called as P protein. Next, the sieve tubes they are interconnected by a plate like structure called as sieve plate, which contains numerous pores called as sieve pores. At or during the time of winter the callus starts depositing inside the sieve pores, hence the sieve pores will be blocked, which mainly decreases the translocation rate. But once the summer season or spring season arises, the callus it is dissolved and the sieve pores are released. So this is about the sieve tubes. These sieve tubes are mainly seen in angiosperms. It is seen in angiosperms, whereas in pteridophytes and gymnosperms, the sieve tube it is replaced by a specialized cells called as sieve cells. Instead of sieve tube, ಜಿಮ್ನೋಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ಟೆರಿಡೋಫೈಟ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ sieve cells ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ಏಂಜಿಯೋಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಬಂದಾಗ sieve ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ಸು. ಜಿಮ್ನೋಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಟೆರಿಡೋಫೈಟ್ಸ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ದ ಲೋಯರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್. ಆ ಲೋಯರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ sieve ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ಸ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ, sieve cells ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Even the sieve cells they act as a same function, that is it helps in translocation of food. But the well developed sieve cells it is seen in angiosperms. So this is about what? This is about the sieve tubes. So next we'll discuss with the second component or second element of the phloem, which is called as companion cells. Companion cells. So the companion cells are the modified parenchyma cells which are closely associated with the sieve tube, which is closely associated with the sieve tube. Sieve tubes pakkadalle close ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. These are companion cells which has a large nucleus. Also it has a dense cytoplasm. ಇದರ ಪಕ್ಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ this is another sieve tubes which is arranged one above the other. Understood? This is a companion cells. So the companion cells they are closely associated with the sieve tube, and very important, the companion cells and the sieve tube, idu companion cell, idu sieve tube. The companion cell and the sieve tubes they are originated or they are arised from the same mother cell. Companion cells and sieve tubes both are arised from the same origin or from the same mother cells. Hence, they are called as sister cells. Very important. The sister cells in the phloem are, one is sieve tube and the another one is companion cell. Both these cells, they are arised from a same origin or from a same mother cell. ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದೇ ಮದರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಲು ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಆದಾಗ ಒಂದು sieve tube ಆಗಿ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಂಪ್ಯಾನಿಯನ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Hence both the cells they are called as sister cells. Why they are called as sister cells means because they have arised from a same origin. Now I said the sieve tube, it is enucleated, means it lacks the nucleus. ಈ sieve tube ಅಲ್ಲಿ nucleus ಇಲ್ಲ. But nucleus is one of the very important organelle which controls all the activity of a cell. Cell ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಆಗಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಅದನ್ನು ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಯಾವುದು, ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಯಾವುದು ಅದರದ್ದು ಅಂದರೆ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್. ಈಗ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ sieve tube ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ದೆನ್ how the sieve tube is working, ಇದ್ರ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದೆ, ಯಾವ್ದು ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ that is the nucleus of the companion cell. Very important. The nucleus of the companion cell is controlling the activity of the sieve tube. It is controlling its activity also. Along with that, it is controlling the activity of what? Sieve tubes. So hence, the sieve tube and companion cells, they are present together or they are close together, and the sieve tube and companion cells, they are arise from the same origin, or you can also say from a same mother cells. Now hence they are called as sister cell. And another very important thing, the sieve tube, it is enucleated, that is it lacks the nucleus. Hence as it lacks the nucleus, which one? The sieve tube, the activity or the function of the sieve tube is controlled by the nucleus of the companion cell. So the companion cell nucleus is controlling, or it is regulating, very specific word, it is regulating the activity of which one? Sieve tube. This is very important. Now this companion cell, it is seen in angiosperm, whereas in pteridophyte and gymnosperm, in pteridophyte and gymnosperm, the sieve tube, the companion cell, it is replaced by albuminous cell. Means there is no companion cells in pteridophyte and gymnosperm. Instead of companion cells, what is the cell which acts as a companion cell in gymnosperm and pteridophyte? Means albuminous cell. So this albuminous cell, it is a modified form of a parenchyma cell. Modified form of a parenchyma cell. Whereas in angiosperm we will see companion cell, whereas in pteridophyte and gymnosperm we will see the albuminous cell. So this is about what? Sieve tube and companion cells. The sieve tube and companion cells, they are very close to each other. They are arise from a same origin. They are called as sister cells. And the nucleus of the companion cell is controlling the activity of the sieve tube. Because the matured sieve tube, it lacks the nucleus. Hence it is called as enucleated. Next is phloem parenchyma. So the same thing as we have studied in the xylem, it is a phloem parenchyma is a parenchyma which is closely associated with the phloem tissue. It is closely, see I have written in the different shape. See the companion cells, they are elongated cells, whereas this is a parenchyma cell. The parenchyma tissue, which is closely associated with the with the phloem is called as phloem parenchyma. Again, what is the main function of the phloem parenchyma means it is involved in storage. And the parenchyma, it is a living tissue, hence the phloem parenchyma element, it is living in condition. So this is phloem parenchyma. So see, the sieve tube is living in condition. The companion cell, yes, it has nucleus, it has cytoplasm, even it contains the vacuole also, hence even it is living. Whereas the phloem parenchyma, the parenchyma itself is a living tissue which is mainly involved in storage, and even this is also a living component. Next, last one is phloem fibers. Phloem fibers. The phloem fibers means, I have already said, the fibers word, if it comes, it is related with the sclerenchyma fibers. So the fibers, the sclerenchyma fibers, which is associated with the xylem tissue. The sclerenchyma fibers which is associated with the phloem tissue is called as sclerenchyma fibers. So the sclerenchyma fibers, it is a dead component as it does not contain a living protoplasm, or it lacks the protoplasm. The cell wall, it is very thick due to the deposition of lignin, and the main function of the phloem fibers is it is involved, or it is helps in providing a mechanical support, rigidity, as well as you can also say it is involved in protection. So that is the function of the phloem fibers. Now we will label the parts. So this is a phloem parenchyma. This is sieve tube. Whereas in pteridophyte and gymnosperm it is called as sieve cells. Next is companion cell. So the companion cells, it is seen in angiosperm, whereas in pteridophyte and gymnosperm it is replaced by the albuminous cell. Next, sieve plate. These are sieve pores. Sieve pores. And this one is phloem parenchyma. So this is about the tissue phloem. So the function of the phloem is it is involved in the translocation of food. So the phloem, sieve tubes and companion cells are called as sister cells as they are arise from a same origin, or they may ask which is the main element which is involved in translocation of food in phloem, that is sieve tubes. Whereas the sieve tubes in the pteridophyte and gymnosperm it is replaced by sieve cells. Sieve plate, sieve pores, this is a protein, P protein, they are the strand, and the cytoplasm it will be pushed towards the periphery, and through this only the food is translocated. During the winter season the callus deposit, but when the summer or spring season arises the callus get dissolved. Companion cells, they are the enlarged cells which is very close to with the sieve tube, which is mainly, or which the nucleus of the companion cells regulate the activity of the sieve tube. So this is about the tissue phloem, and also they will ask which is a dead component of the phloem tissue, that is phloem fibers. You have to write completely. If you write only fibers it is not correct. You have to write phloem fibers is the only dead component of the phloem